All right, today we are going on a global expedition. We're going to travel from the equator all the way to the poles, and along the way we're going to figure out the rules that shape our planet's incredibly diverse environments.
I mean, it really all boils down to this, right? Why are different parts of our world so, well, different? It sounds like a simple question, but the answer reveals this really beautiful and logical system that governs pretty much all life on Earth. Okay, let's dive in.
So the key idea for our whole journey is this concept of a natural region. And if you look at the definition, one word is really doing all the heavy lifting: climate. Climate is the master architect behind everything. It dictates the soil, the plants, the animals, and yeah, ultimately, how we humans can live in a place. It is the starting point for everything else. So here's our travel plan. We're going to kick things off in the lush heart of the planet, right near the equator. Then we'll move through the grasslands and deserts, check out the world's most productive farmlands, and we'll wrap up our expedition in the coldest places on Earth. Okay, first stop. We're in the hot, wet, and just unbelievably vibrant equatorial region. This is where the sun's energy hits most directly, basically creating this massive engine for some of the most intense and diverse life on the entire planet. So you can just picture this zone as a distinct belt wrapped right around the planet's middle. We're talking about places like the Amazon Basin in South America, the Congo Basin in Africa, and all those islands in Southeast Asia. You know, the key word here is consistency. Just imagine a place where it always feels like a hot summer day, and you can practically set your watch to the afternoon rainstorm. There's no real winter, no dry season, just one long, continuous growing season all year round. And what do you get with all that constant heat and water? You get the tropical rainforest. But this isn't just any forest. It's like a skyscraper of life with multiple layers. The canopy at the top is so dense it blocks out most of the sunlight, creating a totally different world on the forest floor. And of course, you've heard them called the lungs of the world. And for good reason. They soak up enormous amounts of CO2 and pump out oxygen. So how do people actually live here? Well, traditionally, these forests were home to indigenous peoples who lived by hunting and gathering. But today, these same regions have become crucial to the global economy. They produce things we all use, like rubber, cocoa for our chocolate, and tons of bananas.
All right, as we move away from the equator, one thing starts to change, and it's a big one. The rainfall isn't constant anymore, and that single change completely transforms the landscape. Water really is everything here.
And that brings us to the savanna. Think of those vast grasslands bordering the rainforests. This world is defined by seasons. You have a hot, rainy season when the grass grows incredibly tall, and then a cooler, very dry season. This kind of environment is just perfect for huge herds of grazing animals, which is why it's often called the natural cattle country of the world. And this just lays it out perfectly side by side. The big switch is from the constant, year-round rain of the rainforest to the seasonal rain of the savanna. That's it. That's the reason you get a thick, dense forest in one spot, and then right next door, these wide-open grasslands with just a few scattered trees. It's all about when the water shows up. So what happens when that rain becomes even rarer, even more unpredictable? Well, that's when we find ourselves in the great, hot deserts of the world. These are some of the most extreme environments on the planet, found in a band just beyond those savanna regions. You know, life here is an absolute masterclass in adaptation. The plants, which are called xerophytes, have these waxy skins and thorns to hold on to every last drop of water. A lot of the animals are nocturnal, so they just sleep through the brutal heat of the day. And historically, human cultures were often nomadic, constantly on the move to find those scarce pockets of water and grazing land. All right, let's leave the tropics behind us. We're now heading into the mid-latitudes. These temperate zones have very distinct seasons, including a proper cold winter, but they also happen to be some of the most agriculturally productive places on the entire planet. And two regions really stand out here. First, you've got the Mediterranean climates, with their hot, dry summers and mild, wet winters, which is just perfect for growing things like citrus fruits, olives, and grapes. And then you have the temperate grasslands, these huge plains deep in the interior of continents that are a little too dry for big forests, but absolutely perfect for growing grains. And here's a pretty cool piece of trivia for you. These temperate grasslands, they're found all over the world, but they all have their own local names. In Eurasia, people call them the steppes. In North America, they're the prairies. Down in South America, it's the pampas, and so on. It's the exact same type of natural region, just with a different local name. So what's the big takeaway here?
Well, it's their absolutely critical role in feeding the planet. These regions, especially the temperate grasslands, are famously known as the granaries of the world. Why? Because they produce the vast majority of the world's wheat and other essential grains.
For the final leg of our expedition, we are pushing into the highest latitudes. We're heading to places where long, brutally cold winters and short, cool summers are the name of the game. Life here has to be unbelievably tough and resilient. So as we move north across Europe, Asia, and North America, we find two final massive natural regions. First up is the taiga, which is the single largest forest region in the world. And then, just beyond that, where it gets too cold for even the hardiest trees to grow, we step out onto the tundra. So let's compare the two. Over on the left, the taiga is all about those enormous evergreen coniferous forests. We're talking pine, spruce, and fir trees. It's very sparsely populated, but it's a huge source of softwood timber. Then you have the tundra on the right. Its name actually comes from a Russian word that means treeless plain, and that's exactly what it is, because the climate is just too extreme for trees to survive. And this image really gives you a sense of that world. The ground just below the surface is often permanently frozen. That's a condition called permafrost. The only plants that can handle the incredibly short growing season are things like mosses and lichens. Life for both animals and people here is just a constant battle against the cold. So after our huge journey from the equator to the poles, you can start to see this clear pattern, this kind of master plan emerge. First, climate sets the fundamental rules for a region: how much sun, how much water, how much heat. Second, plants and animals adapt to thrive under those specific rules. And finally, human societies develop in ways that are deeply shaped by those very same conditions. And this brings us to one final and really vital thought. We've just explored a map of the world that's defined by climate. But we all know our planet's climate is changing. So the most important question for us today has to be this: as those fundamental rules change, how is this map, and all the life that depends on it, going to be redrawn in our future?